live at HCAOA. I'm sitting across from Chaim from NCE Home Care in Connecticut. I think I have seen you at every single HCAOA conference that I've ever been to, but we have yet to speak like this, so the pleasure's mine.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is mine. Thank you for inviting me up here. But we did accomplish already a selfie that we've never done before. So we got that out of the way.
There we go. Chaim, you are up in Connecticut, have been in home care for about 8 years, but have a background in nursing. Give us a little TLDR on your background and getting into home care.
I started off as a CNA for a very short time, worked on the ambulance simultaneously, then went to nursing school and started off as a nurse, both in long-term care, hospice, and home care. Worked for some great people, great organizations, and wanted to make a bigger, better difference. Um, and I had a lot of energy. So I said, let's open up a home care. And first, I worked for some people doing that, and it was phenomenal. They taught me a lot, and I have tremendous appreciation to them for putting me where I am today. Then left and wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. I was going to go back to nursing. My dad and my brother, who are my partners, called me up and said, let's open up a home care. And I was like, that's a crazy idea. Don't. You just think you feel bad for me. That's what we should do now. And they really pushed me. They believed in me. And it was phenomenal. It was the best thing we ever did. We explored buying out some agencies. And my dad, till this day, was passionate about not. And he's like, let's start from the ground up. And we did. And very lucky, 8 years later, 2 locations in Connecticut, one in Waterbury, one in Hartford. And I love what I do. Great staff. And I'm just so passionate about it.
Will you pull that microphone a little bit closer to you?
Sure.
Let's talk about your background in nursing and you being able to relate to these caregivers. You said CNA, then nursing. Do you feel like that has helped you relate and empathize with this
100%.
workforce? Talk a little bit about that. Was that, innate from the beginning?
Very often people, look at people and they think, oh, you got in this position because of your family, or your family had this business and you were just put in this position. It's very hard to relate to your staff on all levels if you did go in that way. And there's nothing wrong with that. Some people take over family businesses and it's great and they're continuing the family legacy. I didn't. I started working second shift, third shift. I worked, every single weekend for 10 years and it was rough. But I loved it and it was rewarding and I wanted to take it to the next step. I saw some things where I was working, whether it was second or third shift, that I guess management wasn't there as much, or it's different than a day shift. And I wanted to make a change. And I thought I was able to, I had some ideas. So I said, let's go to the management side of it. And definitely missed my hands on and, interacting with clients even till today when I go out and about doing spot checks or whatever it may be, or I run into clients with my caregivers at the store or they just stop in the office. It's just that instant connection that you're like, this is why I do what I do and I love what I do.
So let's talk about recruiting specifically. And I know your philosophy is that it's like very localized, like what works for you may not work for everybody else, but I want to hear about what works for you specifically. What specifically are you doing to recruit new employees?
So we have a big little sign in my office in the corner that says, think out of the box. And that's really my philosophy is 1, thinking out of the box, and 2, thinking like a caregiver. A lot of these caregivers are juggling 2, 3 jobs. Many of them are single parents. Many of them are sole providers at home, and they're stressed and they want to work. They love what they work. And sometimes it's just difficult for them to get there and they want to feel appreciated. So learn to think like them is, how do you make it the easiest possible for them to come apply and work for you, but still making it that they have to do an effort so that you show they're committed to come in and work. We do monthly raffles and I try to get really creative. Not your typical $50 gift card. I very often will, this is my fun stuff, and in the office they'll laugh. I'll go on the websites that have like stuff on sale and I'll buy the most random items. Like in the summer, we gave out a patio set.
Oh.
Was the raffle for July.
That's awesome.
And what we do is if you come, there's a few different stages, but one of the stages is when you just come and apply, complete your application and get hired, you get into a raffle. The other part is once you reach a certain amount of hours, depending on that month, what we do is you'll get into a different raffle. And then we do it the other way too for current employees that refer employees. When they reach that benchmark of hours, then they get an automatic reward.
Mm,
So it's not a raffle, it's like an actual Visa gift card reward.
okay. And Connecticut's competitive. There are so many agencies right in your backyard. Do you feel like you're competing against other home care companies for this workforce, or are you up against Amazon,
So,
Starbucks,
first of
Walmart?
all, Connecticut is very competitive, and a shout out to all my competitors because I absolutely love them. Many of them at the conference here interact with and talk to all the time, share ideas. And that's where you touched on a little bit is what works for me may not work for them, depending on what area they are in the state. Definitely competing with other home care agencies, as well as Amazon, Walmart, and some of the large chain places like you mentioned, just because it's easier to work there. More hours, more availability, more locations, and things like that. We do make it a little difficult for them, but we want them to be invested. The goal is to make it a fun place to work, but it's still work. It's still serious. So, one of the things we do that a lot of places, it's not a state requirement in Connecticut, is we do drug testing. In the beginning, we used to get some people that would test positive. Now the word is out there, and they won't apply if they know they're going to be positive. Where other people either don't want to or can't afford the expense of that, or have a limited workforce base already, so they don't want to limit it more.
Mm. And so I want to ask you talk about like thinking out of the box. How important is your online presence, your online reputation when it comes to recruiting? And what are you doing to stand out in such a crowded marketplace? There's hundreds of home care companies in your backyard. What in your online presence are you doing to stand out from the
So
rest?
as you're asking me that, you're watching my smile grow. I absolutely love the online platforms we have. We're in all of them, and each one is for a different market. We do Instagram, we're doing Facebook, we're doing LinkedIn, we're doing TikTok, all those different platforms targeting different audience. We do educational pieces. We're doing interaction, just posting current caregivers, try to get them to do a short clip, office staff, and we cater a lot to the Hispanic community. So all my office staff is bilingual, and we'll do interactive videos or information in Spanish as well.
Okay. If you had to kind of quantify where all of your candidates are coming from, like how many are, I know this is hard, but how many are coming from online versus maybe an employee referral program, maybe from other sources? Like if you had to kind of break down your,
So it's interesting because I speak about my referral programs and I'm a huge fan of it. I think in every few months it changes. Currently, right now, I would say majority of them are coming from my online presence and current employee referrals.
okay.
Even though we have the incentives and they're great and you need to change them and up them and it's always keeping it's a game that keeps changing, but online presence is huge. And some of the agencies had a close friend of mine in Connecticut after COVID. We were out for dinner and they asked me, like, what's your secret? What's your secret to success? They've been around a long time. They helped me out a lot in the beginning. They were still are a mentor of mine. And I said to them, like, I love you, but you don't have an online presence. And they looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, I'll be honest, I was coming to meet you in your office. It's been a long time since I was here. I could barely find you on Google. And that just, Facebook and Instagram, they looked at me like I was crazy. And they're like, come on, you don't get business like that. And it does. It does. And like it or not, it works for people. It brings them in. A lot of the times, every employee that comes in during an interview, we ask them, where'd you hear of us? And a lot of them just look at us, start laughing, and they're like, it looks like a fun place to work.
There you
And I'm
go.
like,
That's the
it's all
highest
worth it. Done.
praise.
And you could argue, you could suggest, and I'm like, and that's where my passion is. It may not work for everybody. It works for us.
Mm. Can I ask about the investment? I hear a lot of owners think, they don't know how much time and effort to pour into social media because they think, okay, I'm going to get ROI on this. But you said Instagram and even TikTok. it takes a lot of effort to like keep up on those platforms and produce a lot of content. So I guess can you kind of quantify like the investment to help people understand like what level of commitment you need to put into social media to be successful?
We actually, I don't do any paid clicks. So I always say you have to reevaluate and focus. So if you're spending any of the recruitment platforms, and I'm not knocking any of them, all phenomenal. There's so many choices. There's some great ones here. You could be pouring money into those platforms and you're bringing in people. You may even be hiring people. Are those people staying long term? And it's something you need to evaluate every few months. When you're doing social media and you're targeting certain age brackets, certain zip codes, certain people that have titles in their Facebook profiles, PCA, caregivers, CNAs, those people that you're bringing in are people that are already in this. You're not convincing them to do
Mhm.
this job. So people often ask, they're like, what's your marketing budget? And I'm like, I don't have one, right? For us to put up a billboard on the 84 in Connecticut, for me, doesn't make sense. Our profit margin's really, really small. You would have to do so many more hours just from that billboard. So, what's my recruitment budget? I don't have a budget, but I know that if I don't have caregivers, I can't operate.
Mm.
So, am I spending that money on Facebook? Am I spending that on Facebook ads? Um, and we reevaluate it every 3, 4 months, and it's a mix. Very often, people who are not in this industry ask me, "So, what's harder, recruitment for caregivers or recruitment for clients?" And I'm like, it's a seesaw. You're up and down, up and down. And the same thing with our social media is we'll reevaluate. This month, are we focusing on recruitment or are we focusing on clients? And more often, it's recruitment. It's the clients feed, word of mouth and things like that. But the caregivers are a constant need. And it's not because we're losing them, it's because we're growing and it's keeping them. And even the people, very often you'll meet agencies and they're like, "Oh, recruitment's great. We're bringing in people. What are you doing now?" It's a second step to keep them and keep them happy
Mm.
and keep it different.
Yeah. Okay, a couple more questions about the social media. Who manages these channels? Are you taking this on? Is it someone in the office or is it shared responsibility?
It's one person and it's Candace. Shout out to Candace
Okay.
because she does a phenomenal job. Um,
Is this her a part of her role or is this her full-time role?
this is her full-time role.
Okay. Yeah, that's good context as well. Is like, do you tack this on to someone in the office
You
or
have
does
to
it
know
need
it.
a
And,
full-time
and that's
effort?
one of the things I see a lot of agency owners say. They say, "You're spending X amount of money on social media. I'm going to do it myself." I'm on the younger side of this industry. I love social media. I post a lot on LinkedIn, but if you don't know it and don't know the hashtags and don't know the GPS,
Strategies. Yeah.
it's not going to work. You could spend more time than I do or we do, and it's just not going to work. And I laugh back because 8 years ago, I used to want to see every single post that went up. I'm like, let's meet once a week, let's meet once a
Let
month.
me
Everything
proofread
that goes up,
everything.
proofread it, opinions, thinking I know. Now I'm like, just keep posting, doing what you're doing because you're doing phenomenal. Unless there's an issue, I don't want to hear. And it's awesome. And we love it. And even here, I get stopped and they're like, last night in the hotel, funny story, there was somebody used to live in Connecticut. They stopped me and they said, "You don't know me? We're connected on LinkedIn." And I drew a blank and I didn't recognize them. It took me a second. And they're like, and they just started rattling off everything I've done in the last 6 months, to the point for the first 90 seconds, I just froze and I could always talk. I was like, wow. He's like, "Yeah, I follow you on LinkedIn. I can't believe you don't follow me." And, it's moments like that. You're like, okay,
It's
everything we're
working.
doing is working.
It's working. And I'm glad to just hear you articulate these things because again, so many owners are afraid to put like so many eggs in the social media basket and it's a big investment. As a podcaster, content creator, it's all about consistency and engagement. And there's no overnight success with social media. It is a long game and you have to buy in and you have to commit. And I think a lot of owners are like kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out, and they're not seeing the results. And so they pull out.
Especially the ones who have been in the industry for a while.
Mhm.
Take somebody who's in the industry for 30 years, never spent a penny on social media marketing. Maybe in the beginning stages, they did SEO or pay per click. So now when you tell them they're going to spend a couple of hundred of thousands of dollars a month on social media, they're like, absolutely not. I'd
Mhm.
rather sell my business. I'm not going to do it. This is a new generation. And I look at them and I'm like, okay, like you got to
Good
try
for
it.
us.
And they'll
Yeah.
try it, but not for long enough. Like you say, it's a long term investment, it's commitment. People often ask me, like, so what's your LinkedIn strategy? I'm like, whatever you're going to pick, do it consistently.
Mhm.
So if you're going to post 2 times a week, then every single week, no matter what is going on, you need to post something 2 times a week.
Mm.
And then it will develop attraction and feed itself.
Yeah. You said the other half of your applicants are coming from your employee referral program. Everybody structures those a little bit different and pays out a little bit different. Can you just kind of walk through the specifics of your employee referral program?
So first, we do a lot of face-to-face interaction. I know some agencies, and depending where you're located and more rural, you can't. We do a lot of face-to-face interaction, and
Lunches, like what yeah, what's bringing them
we do
in?
Visa reward cards, Dunkin' Donut reward cards, raffles. Um, you know, just to veer off a little bit, like I said, we cater a lot to the Spanish community. I have a lot of caregivers that only speak Spanish because they're caring for the Spanish clients and they want them to cook Spanish food and understand their needs. Very, I have a caregiver who only speaks Spanish and is upset about something. One would think, why am I meeting with them? I don't speak Spanish. I wish I did. Um, but why am I meeting with them? And it's to show them that I actually care about this issue. So we'll go into the conference room. I'll be there. I'll have one of my staff from the office there translating. Stop, go, translate, me respond, and they'll translate. And that's better than any other marketing you're going to do. And it goes back to thinking like a caregiver. If I was, when I worked for some larger companies, you could never get to the boss. You could never get to the management. No matter what, you could have done the best thing or the worst thing. You're not meeting them. Giving them that time, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and obviously everything has to be, portioned out and we all have busy days and hectic days. But even when they just pop into the office and they're like, hey, boss, you have 5 minutes, we try to make it accommodate it. And very often you want to hear from them. They may say, hey, boss, so and so agency is doing this. How come we can't do this? And it could be something that I never would have heard of if not for this caregiver coming in. I don't go looking at other people's social media. If it comes up in my feed, I love some of the creativity, but I'm not knowing what the other people are doing. And it may be a simple fix. So just giving them that few minutes of face to face time
Mhm.
is better than your blast text message or your email blast that's going to say, bring us a caregiver. We want more employees. We want, somebody just like you to work for us. And it's goes back to what I'm saying is thinking like a caregiver and just treating them with the same way you want to be treated.
Hmm, and giving them that personal one-on-one time in the office. And I like what you're saying of I think a lot of companies just text out, like they're always asking for referrals and that, may start to rub them the wrong way. Like they're just like milking me for other people and they're not valuing me.
So one of the things I was talking to two agency owners here yesterday at the conference, and money's great. Everybody needs money. We all need money to, live, to survive, and everything like that. S- You, we took a poll. Most caregivers rather feel like a human and interact with you and feel validated when they have opinions, concerns, than the extra $2 you're going to give them an hour or the extra $50 gift card or whatever you may give them, something like that. They want to hear that you're actually listening to them and not just, you took a survey, we, got your feedback, it went into a pile, nobody ever looked at it.
Mm.
And it's shocking because most people tell me it's absolutely not true. And I'm like, I will tell you 100% it's true because I could tell you people that rather, I have somebody coming to us this week. The client switched to us, the caregiver's coming to us, and they were working for another agency that's paying a dollar something more an hour. And they're just like, we're not happy there. They don't treat us well. And we heard really good things about your agency. And that's just proven, so I'm a big, we do surveys and we do feedback and I want to interact and hear from people because Some of them don't, many of them don't hold back. They tell it to you how it is. And sometimes you're like, ooh, I wasn't ready for that. I was just being nice. But you want to hear it. You want to understand where they're coming from and what they're thinking of.
Exactly. And that's what I heard yesterday when I was interviewing the caregivers. They say we're called to the work. A handwritten note goes further than an extra dollar an hour, you know? And that's just so eye opening to hear, but that's directly from their mouth.
And very often you'll hear, I only hear from management when they have a complaint, or I only hear from the office when I didn't clock in. So you're saying that thank you notes are great. Personal thank you notes, phenomenal. Thank you notes are phenomenal. I try to make it my business every single time we get a compliment, whether it's somebody mentioned a caregiver in a review or called the office, which very often people will call with a complaint, but very unoften do they call with a compliment. It's just the nature. So when people call, I take the time personally to call the caregiver and say, I just want to let you know your client called to thank, or your client's family called to thank us. As a token of appreciation, we have something for you in the office. I may not be here when you come here, but I just wanted to thank you and we give it with a thank you note. And
Hi.
that's better than any other sign on bonus you're going to give them.
Amazing. Hi, this has been so good. A pleasure to meet you. Thank you for just diving
Likewise.
right in
Thank
and
you
talking
so
about your
much.
recruiting efforts. This has been so fun and so impactful. Thank you so much.
Thank you for
And
having
yeah,
me.
we'll wrap here, but probably more from you and from me in the future because you've shared a lot of great things
I am
today.
looking forward to it.
Thank you so much.